Thank you so much for joining me here today. In today's video, I'm going to share the 5 steps that you need to take if you want to shift your career into something that you really love, something that energizes you, something that has more purpose and more meaning. You know, there is a myth out there that you're supposed to struggle and really suffer in your work. And when you consider how much time we all spend in our careers, it's amazing that so many people, and myself included at some point in my life, accepted struggling in my career when it doesn't need to be that way. You can actually really be happy in what you're doing and look forward to your day. So as I said, I'm going to mention the 5 steps. Now, the 5 steps themselves are super important, and I'm going to explain why they're important. But equally important is the order of the steps. What I often see with people is they've got some of the steps, but not all of them, or they are doing the steps out of order. And I'm going to explain in this video also why the order is important. And I think you will start to see and understand why this is important. So please stay tuned. Before I hop into the content of today's video, I want to share that I have created a free guide on how to create the professional life that you love. I'm going to put the link to that below. So the 5 steps. Step number 1 is going to seem maybe really obvious, but without step number 1, there's no point doing anything else. It's the end all be all. And that is to commit to making a career change, to commit to finding something you love, to commit to yourself. Again, this might sound really obvious, but I can't tell you how many people I talk to who are like, tell me how much they're struggling and how unhappy they are and how stressed they are and really downright miserable. I mean, I have people telling me they hate their careers. They really do, but they're not committed to making a change, or they're sort of kind of committed and it doesn't work. You cannot sort of be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. But I want to unpack this a little bit because I think the word commitment, it can mean so many things and you can actually apply it in so many different ways. So first of all, many people don't commit because they don't know how they're going to get there. So when I say commit to the change, you don't have to know how to do it yet, right? You just have to commit to the process. You need to commit to yourself. And that is what you're really committing to, is committing to making the change, committing to figuring it out. You do not need to know the process yet at all. That comes, but that doesn't come until and unless you make this first commitment. Because if you don't, when and if you hit a struggle along the way, and it's really more of a when, a challenge, a block, something along the way, you'll quit. I've seen it time and time again. People have told me they've kind of made a shift. They don't really see it all the way through. And then 2 years down the road, 1 year down the road, they're completely miserable again. They maybe had a bit of a relief from, the stress and the misery they're in, but they're back to where they started because they weren't fully committed. So really, you have to fully commit, but commit to yourself, commit to your joy, commit to your health, commit to your happiness, commit to having a greater purpose in this world, but also enjoying yourself along the way. What I also see is generally in our society, people seem to shy away from commitment. I think part of that problem is they're committing to things and not so much themselves or bigger ideas. So they commit to a job, say, and then they're miserable. So they're really hesitant to commit again. And that can really happen. And the reason why that happens is because people have often committed to things where they should do something, where they're supposed to do something. It's expected of them. So they've committed to things really they didn't actually really want in the first place. So the whole notion of commitment kind of leaves a sour taste. Maybe that's you, right? You're just like, I don't love commitment, but look at what you've committed to in your life. And were you really committing to things that were truly things that you wanted, truly that felt in alignment with your soul, deep in your heart? Or were they things you were supposed to do, that you should do, that looked like what was realistic? Because that's a trap too. We fall into what was practical. It's what's possible trap, right? But it's not really what our soul really wants. And the other thing that can happen is maybe you were really lit up by something and you committed to it, but you started to not enjoy it anymore, but you stayed committed to it. And, well past its expiry date. And then you're like, oh, I committed to this and like, I just don't love commitment anymore. So commitment's really tricky. So really that's why I wanted to unpack this a little bit. So if you're in a place where you're like, oh, I don't know why I want to commit, or I just don't feel like I'm there yet, really start to dig a little bit deeper and find out why you're having a hesitation. And if in this moment now, if you can just commit to you and your well-being, that in itself is an amazing first step. So many people are just barely surviving right now. They're just stuck in survival mode. And the only way to get out of survival mode is to make a decision and a commitment to get out of survival mode. Okay. So step number 2, self-discovery. This is the step that most people want to skip right over, or they want to just kind of dip their toe into it a little bit, not really fully commit because they don't really want to look, or they just simply don't know what to look for. So to make a successful career change, and when I say a successful one, I don't mean you actually move to one. When I say successful, I mean successful in that you move to one that you love, okay? So you may have been able to make one, but you found that you weren't happy. That can often happen. People have made shifts, and again, a year or 2 down the road, they find they're not happy. It's because they didn't discover parts of themselves. So when making a career shift to something where you're happy, you need to learn certain parts about yourself. You need to learn how you operate, what your success needs are. That is something most people skip right over, or they think they've got it, but they didn't dig quite deep enough. They took kind of what was obvious on the top, and that makes sense. If you're not used to looking for what your success needs are, no, we're not taught this. We're taught that success equals title and money. So nobody's really taught most of us how to do this. So it's really easy just to grab the first thing, the first obvious thing that's there. And this is where most people and many people go wrong, is they just pick the obvious thing. We often have to dig a little bit deeper to see what's underneath, what's really driving that, what's really motivating that, what's really inspiring that. Because that's where the juice is, and that's the stuff that you want to pull forward into your next career, because your success needs are what energize you. So if you are not having your success needs met, you will feel drained at the end of the day. This is it. This is it. We can have all the purpose in the world. We can have all the vision in the world. But if we don't have our success needs met, we will not feel happy. And often people will, look at themselves and do that self-discovery bit, and they'll flip right away to vision. And this is where I see a lot of people go wrong also, is they flip right away to vision. And the thing is, if you don't figure out you first and you start looking outward to what you want to create in this world, you haven't figured yourself out first yet. It really is the it's a second step in actually creating the career, right? Past the commitment, but it's the first step in really understanding what it is you need to do next, or what will make you happy in your next step. And I want to explain also why this is really important, that you do this before anything else, before you start looking at jobs, looking at careers, looking at anything else. If you're a person who have gotten to the point where you're not happy in your career, which essentially means you are out of alignment. What you're doing is out of alignment with who you are as a person, in your soul. If you are out of alignment with that, you are not your best self. You've likely forgotten who you are and all your amazingness. When people first reach out to me, they're not at a high point in their life. And again, if you're looking right now and you're feeling unhappy, you are not at the best place. So to start looking at jobs or other careers when you're not confident and you haven't really connected to who you really are and the amazing person that you really are, it's going to feel really depressing. And you're probably going to really eat away more at your confidence. It actually works against you. So when you do this self-discovery piece, You know, when I work with clients, this is a big piece of what we do together. I'm always amazed at how they shift and change because we start to talk about and tap into what they're really good at, their successes in the past, because there's always clues to their successes in the past, right? And one thing I'm also amazed at is, like I said, when people first reach out to me, their confidence is low. And when I start to get to know them, we work together, I'm always blown away at what they've accomplished and how they've lost sight, like truly have lost sight of how amazing they really are. And that needs to happen. You need to remember. We need to remember and tap into the amazing and beautiful person that you are and all the gifts and the talents that you have already in you. You have likely lost sight of in the last however many years it is. The longer you've been out of alignment, the more that is a distant past. This is why this needs to happen before we go out and look and start looking at the vision and all that other stuff. You need to have a firm foundation and a remembrance of who you really are. And that's the place to start from. It has to be that way. There is no other way. Okay? Now, the third step is the vision. So this is kind of the funner part. And so often people will want to jump ahead. Like I said, they'll go right to the vision. Now the problem is if you go right to the vision before doing this self-discovery step is you might find a industry that has a vision that you share. But if you haven't figured out your success needs, you could still be drained at the end of the day. If you don't tap into who you really are, and when I say tap into who you really are, that's really remembering and tapping into your self-worth. This whole career journey, finding your purpose, is really you coming into your being and really recognizing who you really are and empowering yourself at a deep and profound level. This is what this is all about. But if you go out into the world just worrying about the purpose and how you're going to change the world without really loving yourself, having that remembrance of how freaking awesome you are, you create the same patterns in the next job, in the next career. This is about owning who you are and what you have to offer in this world. And that is the place. It's always the place you want to come from. You want to come from your own cup, filling over so much that you've got so much to give. This is what this is about, being of service. But you cannot be of service until you have taken care of yourself first. It is not selfish. And so many women especially, have been taught to give. And that's a beautiful thing. And that is needed in this world now more than ever. But you have to fill your cup first. Absolutely have to. So in this third step, you got to tap into your vision, what it is you see, the changes that you want to make, and make from this really empowered, badass place. This is the place where we create freaking miracles in this world. It truly is. When you're aligned with yourself and you know what you're doing, what you want, this is when you go out in the world and you create change. And this is when change happens. And you're able to bulldoze over any obstacles, any challenges. And you know, when you're in survival mode, the smallest challenge can feel like the world. It can feel like massive. It can feel like so much you have to overcome. But when you are fully anchored in who you are with a clear vision, it's amazing the things that you can overcome. So the third step, really tap into that vision. Not only a vision for a purpose and what you want to create in the world, but the vision for your lifestyle. Like, what do you actually want for yourself in your life? So many of us were taught that it's 9 to 5, sitting in an office, sitting in a cubicle, whatever that looks like, right? Grinding and hustling and just struggling. It's changing that. How do you want your career to fit into your life? Not your life fit into your career. Like, we have it kind of mixed up. We want to make sure that your life and your career are aligned completely. So that's part of that vision as well. The fourth step is research. Now that we know who you are, what you're capable of, all your talents, all your gifts, what you want to do, it's now going out into the world and figuring out what is available. When you get to the end of step 3, the vision part, if you've done it correctly and you've got all the pieces, you will know what you want to do. But there always is refinement to this. There always is refinement. So you may have a broad category of what it looks like, but now that 4th step is going out and actually breaking it down into the smaller bite-sized pieces and doing some research. This is actually a really fun phase too, because you know who you are, you know what you have to offer. You're not trying to fit yourself into something, which is how we're taught. You're going, okay, so I've got a lot to offer. Where can I contribute? What is in alignment with me? It's coming from this empowered place, not from this lack mentality, because that's what happens when we go look at what's out there in this world and we are coming from a place of lack. It's really depressing. But doing research from a place of, okay, what are the opportunities? It's a very different mindset shift, because now you're looking for opportunities. What works for me? Because here's the thing. This is something that's missed entirely often in this whole career process. We do well on the things that we love. People think, oh, I'm not going to succeed in this new career. I'm not going to do well. It's going to take forever to figure it out. It's like all these stories we tell ourselves, and it's natural, it's normal. I think we go through this process. We do well in what we love. If your success needs are being met, remember, you're being energized by your success needs. That means you're excited in the morning. You get way more done and you are way more productive when you are inspired and you're loving what you're doing. So this whole research phase becomes more fun, a lot more fun, because it's looking for opportunities. Many people will go to research right away as one of the very, very first steps. And what they do is they try to fit themselves into like, okay, so what skills do I have that could kind of fit into that career? And again, that becomes very depressing, and you will land somewhere that you do not belong. I hear from so many people that tell me, they've sent out hundreds, literally hundreds of resumes, but they haven't landed a job. I can tell you right now, it does not take hundreds of resumes to find a job. It takes hundreds of resumes if you don't know what you want and where you fit. And what's interesting is I'll have people often send me their resumes, and looking at resumes is not something I actually do when I'm working with somebody, but I often will look at them just because I'm curious, especially if somebody has said to me, I've sent out hundreds of them. Can you please look at this for me? And it's the same story every time I look at them, every single time. Their resumes are so completely vague. I have no idea what they're doing and what they're looking for. And what's also really amazing is they usually have like a lot of really great skills. Like I'll look at their resume like, wow, they've done a lot. They have a lot to offer, but I have no idea what they want. It is so not clear. And if you're not clear on what you want, where you fit, you're just like, well, I hope somebody sees all the value, because I know I've done some really cool things. And the thing is, you have, right? People have, that's the thing. You're 100% correct on that. But if you're not really, really clear on what it is you want, you will simply get unclear results. That's just the way this works. So if you are a person who has been in that position where you have been looking for a job for a really long time, it is likely that you are not clear. I'll also have people say to me something like, I'm looking for this, but I'm open to other things. And that to me, right there in itself, tells me they're in a lack mentality, because they don't believe they can get what they want, because they haven't really done step number 2. They haven't actually grounded in who they are, what they have to offer. Their confidence is not up. Their confidence is really low. When you tap into who you are and what you want, your confidence really increases. So they're telling me they're in lack, and they don't believe it. They just don't believe it's possible. They don't believe it's possible. So when an employer hears that, like, that doesn't inspire me. Like if I was an employer, I would not be inspired by somebody who says, well, I really want this, but I'm kind of open. It's really wishy-washy, right? And it really is a lack mentality and just not grounded in confidence, having clarity in what you want, all those things. So when I see people go right to that research phase or just directly go into job search, this is why it doesn't work unless you do all the other steps first. This is why the order is so important. And the fifth step is kind of the really obvious one, and that's implement. Strategy on the implementation. Okay, now I know what I want, execute, and actually do it. And that is the resume. That's all of those things. Notice that's the last step. It's not the first, the second, or the third. It's the very last step. Has to be. And that step then is much, much shorter. Most people hate that process. They hate that process because they spent too much time spinning their wheels in it. But if you do all that work prior to that, that last step doesn't have to be agony. It doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be hundreds of resumes. Again, if you are sending out hundreds of resumes, it's a sign that you are out of alignment, full stop. It's not a sign that the economy is bad. It's not a sign that, people just aren't hiring. It's not all those things that we've been told that what it is. And we are told those things, right? We can look at all those reasons, but the truth of the matter is you are out of alignment. I have gotten jobs in any kind of economy, in the worst economies. Never had a problem because I was always clear on what I wanted. So that piece is likely, lacking if you are stuck in that loop. Now, I have laid out those 5 steps. I've laid them out in order, super important. They're obviously, they go well beyond this conversation. First of all, I want to say, right? I made it sound really simple, and it is simple, but there, of course, is nuances and extra layers to all of this. Overlapping all of this, all those 5 steps, at every single step along the way, one of the most important things about making a career shift is your mindset. People often don't make changes in their career because they are more committed to their past, their old beliefs, their thought patterns, their thought processes, all those things, than they are too committed to making a change. And mindset comes up in every single one of those phases, every single one of those steps. It's a constant check, and that's why I want to say it's an overarching thing. So if you're not willing to have some new beliefs, create new beliefs, then it's going to be a struggle. I'm going to be really honest with you because I don't want you to stay stuck. I really don't. I want you to be able to move forward. If you're more committed to your mindset and your beliefs and the stories that you have, then you will stay stuck. It's just the way it goes. And, it's not to diminish your past, what's happened, your stories. Those are important stories. It's who you are. It's when we let them dictate our future. Honor yourself for what you've been through. You've gotten to this point where you're struggling, you don't know what to do. I know you've had some hard times. So acknowledge yourself, honor yourself. We're taught to kind of beat ourselves up for all the mistakes we've done. You are not your mistakes. You are not your past. Honor that journey. Honor where you came from, but then choose. Choose a life of thriving. Choose well-being. And along that way, your beliefs are going to be challenged. But what I can tell you is when you do that work and you change your mindset, powerful things can happen in your life. So if you are somebody who feels like, okay, I'm ready, I want to do this, I need some support, please reach out. You can reach out in the comments below, wherever this may post it. Also, I'm going to put my links to my email and my website below. There's a multitude of different ways to connect with me. I'm on all kinds of different social media platforms as well. I've got my website. Do reach out. And if you enjoyed this video, please do like, share, and subscribe. I do so appreciate it. And also add any comments. I'd love to hear your feedback on if you tried this or you might be stuck. Reach out. You do not have to do this alone. One thing I have learned in helping people supporting people in this process is there's this level of secrecy around making a career shift. It's like we don't want to let people know we're doing it. Or maybe afraid our employer might find out, and that's understandable. So it can be challenging because you can feel all alone. One of my missions really as I'm starting into 2023 is to take away that any level of shame, embarrassment, or that feeling of just being alone in this process. Start creating community around people who are really wanting to step into this, because we can see the world around us is going to get worse in 2023, and that's not to instill fear. I'm not here to instill fear, but we have to stick together. Those of us, who are on the path, who want to create change, we do it by supporting each other, elevating each other, aligning with each other, and we all rise together. And I am here to support you in any way I can. I am on a mission because I want to change this freaking world. We need strong leaders. We need people stepping into their purpose. We need people stepping into their power. We need you. We 100% need you. And I know you've got it in you. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be watching this video. I just know it. I know it deep down in my soul. So I'm going to stop talking here. I get excited and I get passionate about this because I believe in this so much. But we'll leave it here and take care. I will talk to you soon.